Every session's running now.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for bearing with us through the last session, the penultimate session on the second day. I really appreciate it. I'm so PowerPointed out that I promise I just want to talk to people and tell stories, and I know others on the panel have kind of the same philosophy, so I think it'll be really good and interesting. We were just talking before the session, a few of us, that I think this is coming at the right time in the conference, and also is sort of the right time in the dialogue, the overall dialogue about food waste. We've been talking a lot about moving food to people, and that's a really important thing, and that's the whole hierarchy and the right place on the pyramid. I haven't heard as much as I think we need to hear about people wanting food and what they're looking for in that food and what they're valuing and not valuing and getting excited about the demand of surplus food. And so a lot of our work really comes out of conversations with people who are on the receiving end of this saying, I don't necessarily want your crap, but I would like it if it was this way. So that's part of it. And I also think we're talking a lot about foods, and we think of them in trucks and boxes and all sorts of things. And we haven't actually gotten our hands dirty with food in these sessions. I understand there's some logistical considerations there, but I think we need to actually drill down and get to actual food and look at what we're actually talking about. We're not talking about surplus and waste and calories and nutrients. We're really talking about actual foods, and some of it is delicious and some of it is stinky and some of it can be made delicious and so on, and that's really what this session is about. So I'm excited that you're here. This picture is courtesy of Thomas Quinn from Baldor. Those are the most adorable pigs in the universe, and they are eating sparks, or sparks, which we'll hear more about, which is not waste, it is part of food. And that's, as you know, a few down on the hierarchy, and those same sparks we can make something really delicious with, and the challenge, as you know, is to keep it as high as possible, and we've done some work there. So Thomas will tell you about that. We'll also hear from Glenn Bergman from Philabundance, who is working with us a little bit further downstream to do some, I stole your
That's good.
product, I'm sorry.
I didn't bring any students.
To do some value-added food product development. And in both cases, I think, we're really addressing what you can do with surplus food to enhance it and make it appealing. And importantly to me, not just to get people to eat it, which is part of the challenge, but to get people to want it. And I think an important part of the conversation that I really want to talk about today is sort of the equity piece of this. Rich people not eating all the food on their plate and giving the leftovers to poor people is a way to reduce food waste. I don't believe it's the best way to reduce food waste, and I think a lot of the conversations have been really focused on how do we do that better. Thank you for a solo applause. A lot of conversations have been around how do we do that more efficiently with less waste in the system and more wonderfully, and that's great. But what I would like to see is when we get to the point that jar of rescued relish that we developed in collaboration with Glenn hits the market, which it has. Yes, I want it to be available to people who need it at a discount because it is made from surplus food and we paid less for that or nothing for that food. But I also want people who would normally buy a national leading brand for $3.99 to get so excited about the quality of this handmade food and the mission of this handmade food that they're going to pay $6.99 for the same bottle. And that's, I think, the next frontier for us, is that we all see in every fashion and every food and restaurant trend, what rich people eat, everyone wants to eat. And if rich people aren't eating stuff from surplus food, no one's eating stuff from surplus food happily. So anyway, that's today. So what we'll do is each of us will talk a little bit about their work. I'm going to start because the work we do at Drexel in our food lab connects with both Thomas's work and Glenn's work. Then you'll hear from Thomas and Glenn. Their bios are in your book. And then we're going to challenge you a little bit to think about what other kinds of things we could be working on or you could be working on, because there's a lot of work to be done, and we all have day jobs and are just somehow sneaking this into what we're doing. So, is that okay? I can run? Okay, I'm running. I'm already off our script. So, let me tell you a little bit about us and the work we do, and you'll see. I just want to tell you some stories. I do have a PowerPoint, but this is, and we'll get to this later.
That was my He just stole.
This is the target. This is the Sparks reimagined, right? This food becoming this food. Which we'll hear more about. So let me tell you about me and us. 3 o'clock. I will promise I'll end on time and get these guys there in due time. My background is as a chef. My name's John Deutsch. I'm a professor of culinary arts and food science at Drexel University. I worked as a chef in the usual places chefs work. And then I worked in maybe an unusual place for chefs to work, which is the research and development facility at Nestle. I was a research chef doing for a big bad food company, doing all sorts of evil plotting to make you eat less wonderful food. And then got into education and taught for 12 years before moving to Drexel, sort of standard cooking school stuff, stocks, sauces, soups. And then moved to Drexel, where in Philadelphia, we're a very unusual culinary school. We're the only doctoral granting research university in the country with a culinary program. We don't quite know what to do with that. It's my job to figure out. And we're also have a full-fledged food science program, graduate food science program, housed together with culinary, which is very unusual. And so I'm really trying to change the conversation there. For years we've been saying, well, we teach what every culinary school teaches, but we do it at a university, so you could be in a frat, and you could be in the glee club, and you could do kind of college-y, dormy things. And that's true, but I'm really trying to change that conversation to say, anywhere you go to culinary school, you'll learn to cook. You could probably learn to cook without going to culinary school. People have done it for millennia, right? But if you study cooking at a university, you do the things universities do. They challenge paradigms, they push envelopes, they come up with innovations and tech transfer and patents and do research. And so I'm trying to get my students engaged in this kind of work. And similarly in food science, a lot of graduate food science programs are focused on the sort of the bench science of making food more delicious. So they make cheesy poofs cheesier and poofier, and that's their life's work, is to maximize those things, and cheaper also. And that's cool, and we have students who do that path. But I also want to say, here's an opportunity. We think of the food industry as this big bad monolith, and we're throwing stones at it and trying to get it to do more good practices environmentally, socially, nutritionally. Well, we can actually develop people with those skills and teach them about these issues and have them become our allies, as they move up through these corporate ladders. So that's kind of where I want to see things going. And that's what happens when you start talking and you're not quick at the appropriate pace. We're starting a master's, what I think will be the first in the country, a master's in culinary arts and science, to really merge these 3 topics: cooking, food science and food systems, and really teach people who understand the issues, but can also get their hands dirty. So fall 17, if you're interested, let me know. So we have this food lab that does a lot of stuff. We say we use a Robin Hood model. It's not really true because everyone wants the same thing, but we work with industry. That work supports work in good food projects like food waste, health, sustainability, and we do a lot of recipe development kind of stuff. We did Carla Hall's Southern Kitchen in Brooklyn. It's one of our industry clients. That's our I want to just tell the story. This is Tom O'Donnell's slide. Thank you. I want to tell the story of how we started working in food waste, give you an example of some of our products, and that really reach, I think, that people thing that I was talking about before and the deliciousness thing I was talking about before. People like delicious food. And then I'll hand it over to my colleagues for you here. Good on time. And this is going to be a little, I have nothing but the utmost love and respect for Tom and his work. But how we got off to a little bit of a rocky start because I was like, yeah, but. So none of this is meant to be taken that way. So the way we got into this, Tom is running our Food Recovery Challenge project in West Philadelphia, which is a federally designated promise zone. University of Pennsylvania, Children's Hospital Philadelphia, Drexel are there, so there's money and power and institutions, and it's also some of the poorest neighborhoods in Philadelphia, and really the poorest major city in the country, and all a land of inequality. And so Tom came along and said, we need to keep food out of landfills, we need to get food to people who need it, keep it at the top of the hierarchy. You all are in agreement, that's why you're here. And initially we connected to Tom in the EPA because he wanted us to donate food like the supermarkets and hospitals and other people who are in this food donation. Donate food and keep track of where it's going. What we found, first of all, is that culinary schools don't have a tremendous amount of food waste, surplus food, because we have 500 college tuition paying college students who, if I say, hey, this is left over, does anyone, I can't even finish the sentence. So it turned out we were a terrible donor for Tom. But we were interested and I wanted to learn about this. So he took us around to some sites to sort of show us how the whole food recovery works at this local level. Wonderful. So we started at a supermarket in the neighborhood, great store. They're very giving, community-minded, love to share their information and their data, and feel very good about their presence. Most of their food is donated through Philabundance. They have a great relationship. We don't want to step on toes. Everything's fine. Philabundance, as most people know, the food banks won't accept certain donations that they don't feel confident will get to people at the right quality standard and safely. So something like meat is really easy. It's pulled on or before the sell-by date. It's frozen. It goes to Philabundance frozen. They pack it, ship it. It gets to the donor, frozen. They cook it. Everyone's happy, eating, wonderful. Other food like bananas, much trickier. If there's a shipment of bananas that are green and just surplus, Philabundance can take them. If they're culled from the shelves and they're brown and spotty and too far gone, by the time they get to the warehouse, they're checked in, weighed, packed, repacked, distributed, they're mush, right? So certain foods weren't making it to the system. So that's where Tom comes in and EPA said, okay, how can we get this food to people who need it the same day? And they did a phenomenal job. So the nerds come in, sorry, I'm a cook. The nerds come in with their laptops and their GIS and their carbon offsets, and they say, okay, we can take these bananas, they can come off the shelf, they can be packed, and they can make it to a shelter within an hour and get to people. Like, that's great. And I feel like those are the kinds of conversations I had with a lot of people these 2 days, which are great conversations. So then we go to the shelter and we look at the bananas. This is a shelter in West Philly for women and children. And we went to the meal and just kind of hung out. And great cook. She was a restaurant cook. in Philly and sort of got fed up with the restaurant world and said, I want to cook for real people who value my food and not rich people who send food back, and she's like exactly who you want in a shelter kitchen, and everything's beautiful. So food looks great, chicken, rice, salad, sort of the standard emergency food meal everywhere, it seems like. And the women are coming through, piled plates, chicken, rice, salad, and they get to the box of bananas from the supermarket, and they keep on walking. And what we found is that there was about 10% uptake of those actual bananas, which were on the shelves an hour ago. Everything is being done right. But guess what? Food insecure people don't necessarily want brown bananas sitting in a box. So then they put them in a bowl. Guess what? They still don't want them, even if they're in a bowl. So I was there with our, who was then a student, is now an employee, because this is what you do with good students. And she said, well, why don't we make banana ice cream? Okay, so now, do you know what the ingredients are for banana ice cream? Bananas. So you take bananas, it's not a real ice cream, it's ice cream in quotes. But you take bananas, you put them on a sheet pan, you freeze them. Then you take them, you put them in a food processor, and you food process them. But you could also do it by hand if you don't have equipment. You could use anything, a blender, you make a banana whip, whatever. And you serve it, you could refreeze it and it stiffens a little bit, like hard dip, or you can serve it as is, it's more like soft serve texture. Guess what? People eat it. Not only do people eat it, but you totally change the culture of a shelter from saying, hey, there's brown bananas left over from the supermarket, do you want one? To having a volunteer scooping, a woman, a resident, scooping ice cream and saying, would you like a scoop of ice cream? Of course. Has anyone ever said no to that question? I don't think it's humanly possible. So we went from 10% uptake to 100% uptake. Our new thing is a little more controversial. We're trying some with peels on, because peels are huge sources of nutrients, like in most foods. I won't. It becomes a little political. Next year. Yeah. That we may need a lawyer and a grant and a PR person. But anyway, so that's great. And then this kicked off a whole set of projects. Another one that I'm really proud of is, I think we partially, I warned you. So what we were seeing is basically a gap. There was like a little hemorrhage where in between source reduction and feed hungry people, where in theory it works and that's what we want, but in actuality you see this little hemorrhage and food leaking out of that pyramid is how I saw it. And so what the effect of that before the ice cream came in is you have the supermarket feeling really good about itself. It's all over their website. They get tax benefits. And they should. They're good people. There's no evil person rubbing his hands together laughing about this. But they're saving money. They're doing, they're feeling good. They're getting good PR. The supermarket has a composting program, which now they don't have to pay as much for. And they're sending their waste to emergency food feeders who can't pay for trash removal, don't have a composting system, and now are basically subsidizing the operations of the supermarket by throwing their trash out for them. So that's what was essentially happening, right? So that's where the equity stuff is. So there are other examples with this equity stuff. The bane of every soup kitchen and shelter is cakes. We all know this, right? If you feed people cakes, we all know, does everyone know birthday cake is a sometimes food? This is what we talk about in nutrition, right? Birthday cake is a sometimes food. If you feed it to people every day, because that's one of the most frequently donated items, then you're really perpetuating a lot of health inequity and feeding people the things that we all know we shouldn't eat every day as much as we might like to. If you don't feed people perfectly good food, we're contributing to food waste problems. So we developed something else. I wasn't allowed to bring them, but I'll illegally ship them to you or something. If you contact me, we did a granola bar. So if you think about a granola bar, it's half sugar and fat. If you've ever made granola, you start with like a disgustingly large amount of oil and maple syrup or honey or sugar or something, and then you pour it over some oats, and then you feel really good about yourself. So we took out that sugar and fat part, and we replaced that with birthday cakes. And then we added new whole grains and fruits and nuts and all the things granola bar says. It's very important to add nuts to this, because that way we're saying these are hyperallergenic, these will kill you if you have an allergy, because we don't know what's actually in the cakes, right? Every time we do this, someone says, first of all, someone says banana bread, which doesn't make sense because you have to buy a lot of ingredients, and someone says nut-free, which also doesn't make sense when you're dealing with certain. So then you have granola bars that people can take with them after their meals. They are eating whole grains where they might not otherwise eat whole grains. And we have something to do with these stupid birthday cakes that every soup kitchen doesn't know what to do with. So the next part of this whole process is to really start enterprises. So that's where Glenn comes in. You'll hear more about that. And also to move this work upstream. And that's where Thomas comes in. It's great to talk about doing this with 3 cases of bananas a day that come off a shelf, but what could we do with containers and containers of surplus parts of food, at the industrial level? So you'll hear about both of those things today, and we'll talk more, and I'm out of time. So I think I'll stop there. Do you want to go, you want your pigs or your target?
Who doesn't?
All right, I'm going back to the pigs for Thomas, and then we'll cover some of the stuff in our discussion too.
So I originally had a 12-page PowerPoint, decided to scrap it for just a couple of images, which I think say it all. But before I start, how many of you in the room are chefs? So about 3%. That's great, because they're the ones who are going to really affect change in this space. We need to get more chefs in the future at this conference. How many of you are here because you think your work can help influence a greater use of more of the food in our food system? Okay, pretty much all of you. Okay, so if you didn't raise your hand, I was going to say you're at the wrong conference. The image you see here is Clyde, is the pig on the left who's smiling. After I took these images, these took place at Flying Pig Farms up in Shushan, New York. After I took these pictures and I got them home and I saw how beautiful this picture was, I called the farmer right away and I said, can we pardon this pig? What's the pig's name? He said, send me the picture. So I sent the picture and he goes, oh, the one on the left? You're an hour too late. But he did point out to me that this pig had 210 days, really happy days, particularly the 210th day. The 211th day wasn't so great. What the pigs are eating is what I want to talk to you about. I'd like to take you on a little bit of a journey. Some of you have become friends of mine over the last year and have learned a lot about the work we're doing at Baldor Specialty Foods. And what I'd like you to do, if you could, is sort of take this journey and then apply some of what you learned today to your own work. And if it's not your own work, somebody that you know, pick one person who you can sort of bring on a journey to better utilize their food resources. Baldor Specialty Foods, really quickly, is a distributor of high-end produce and specialty food items. We reject the notion of even thinking about having food W, I never say the word, by the way, because we like to think that all of our food comes in as a full box and goes out. Well, about 15 years ago, we got into food production. We call it our Fresh Cuts division, where we cut a carrot. How many of you have visited Baldor before? Okay, a few of you. I would encourage you to come visit. Tessa, good. Because you can see our food production. It's like Willy Wonka for adults, the way you see us manage our food production. But in any event, when we cut a vegetable, we have some left over. And that is what you see in this image. I was tasked exactly a year ago, July 7th, to look at all the food matter that was coming out of our production and any leftover food that wasn't going for donation and what we could do with it. And I originally thought this is going to be the easiest job in the world because I'm just going to send it to composting, and I thought that's perfect. So we'll just load it up, get it out. And I started working with a composter, and then I realized that that was going to cost way too much money. I took a flight to California. I went to see the Monterey anaerobic digesting setup in Monterey, California. If you haven't seen it, you need to. It's really cool. It's a dry anaerobic digestion process? How many of you do not know what anaerobic digestion is? Anybody not? Beautiful. Okay, so that's a dry system. If anyone doesn't, at break, see me. And so basically that, I started thinking about, well, we'll just do anaerobic digestion at bowel growth. That's going to be a really great solution. And actually, what I realized on the flight home, I started thinking about, well, wait a minute. This is food. Why are we anaerobically digesting it? Why don't we treat this as food? And I started thinking about what we could do with it. My wife, Meg, is here today. She and I have a Wheaten Terrier who, in the early part of her life, was really brutal because she would poop and pee everywhere in the house that she was allowed in. And she had some dietary issues. We found a grain-free food for her, wellness, that worked really well for her. And I remember reading the ingredient package and I thought, that's what it is. It's this product coming off the line. So we took a portion of it, sent it up to a dryer. The dryer sent it back to me. I reached out to the ingredients manager at Wellness, sent him the sample, and he said, yeah, this is exactly what we use. Can you make me 9 million pounds? And I thought, okay, so we're getting closer, but that's not the right. And then I was looking at it one day and I thought, why in the world aren't we eating this? This is like good food for human use. So if you wouldn't mind, Jen, opening that and then pass it around. So basically what we did is we took this product and we dried it. We dehydrated it over a long period of time to maintain the nutritional value of it. And it turns out to be 13% protein, full of phosphorus, ash, fiber, vitamin A and C, and could become a really great food supplement for the food insecure. So then I thought, okay, now we have something, because we have a product that doesn't have to leave bowel door necessarily. We can dry it. We can get it to the food insecure. It's shelf stable. If you look at it, touch it, you're welcome to taste it. This product actually has a little bit of spice added to it. I partnered with Lior at Le Bois in Manhattan, the spice mixer, to make this product, which we gave away at an event at Drexel. And so, but it can be a product that, so we can take some product where we have extra and do something with it. And that was sort of the motivation. Today's presentation is about upscaling. And I think what I'd like to encourage you to think about is when we look at food, particularly produce, why don't we eat all of it? We need to educate ourselves about what part of the food product that we traditionally did not consume can now be consumable. And there are lots of things we don't eat that I would encourage you to think about eating. You know, how many of, we were talking about kiwis yesterday, how many of you ever tried the skin of a kiwi? Excellent, so 3% of you. Next time you meet, it better be 100%. Take the kiwi, let it really ripen nicely, slice it thin, wash it, and try the skin. It's got a wonderful lemony finish to it. And it's if the fruit is ripe, it's not weird on your tongue. But what we do know about the kiwi is it has such a difficult growing life that it pushes its nutrients out to its skin to protect the fruit, to protect the seed. And in doing that, all of the energy resides on the outside of the fruit. So when you eat the skin, you're actually doing yourself a lot of favors. Well, as it turns out, most fruit, except for strawberries and some other fruits that grow their seeds on the outside, those skin products are really nutritious products and need to be consumed. So what we've been throwing out for years, we've been doing ourselves a disservice. Actually, a carrot peeler didn't exist as a tool for a chef 100 years ago. It's a relatively new phenomenon. Somebody got this idea that the carrot should look smooth and uniform. It was some French chef, maybe it was Escoffier or somebody, I don't know. But we need to move away from that. We need to wash our carrots and eat the skin. Wash our apples and eat the skin. My feeling is, the way I look at this is sustainability. I look at this from a sustainability standpoint, not a donation standpoint. If on the sustainability side, we can better utilize all of our assets, including food, if we can better utilize and reduce the amount of waste we generate in all of aspects of our life. Forget about food for a second. And if we can also do that with energy, then there's going to be a lot left over for everyone else. That's what I'd like to challenge you to think about. And we're going to talk a little bit about that later. Thank you.
I'll show your pictures.
Right, so thank you. So what we did here, so this took place at the Drexel Food Lab. We took the dried vegetable blend without any spices. We had 10 students at the lab take this product and work with the manager of the lab, Ali Zeitz, Chef Ali Zeitz, to come up with products that where we could use this. What was really interesting is one of the images you don't see here is a beautiful bread product. You can use the dried vegetable blend to replace maybe about 25% of the flour, the white flour that you might usually use to bake, and it gives the bread a really delicious flavor. It might reduce the gluten to such an extent that it's also tolerable for digestion for somebody who has an intolerance. Maybe not a celiac, but somebody who's gluten intolerant. What you see here are the 4 winners, actually 3 of the winners. So one of the chefs made a carrot cake, which was absolutely incredible. The canapes you see over here, they made a buckwheat pancake using the dried vegetable blend, which gave a very rich flavor. And that, as you can see, she really did a beautiful job decorating the plate. And then the winner was the bottom right-hand one, because the chef used the blend twice. First, she dredged the chicken thigh in the vegetable blend, and then she coated it with white flour, so that when the chicken was actually fried, the white flour protected the vegetable blend from burning. As you can imagine, the vegetable blend is already dried. If it hits hot oil, it's going to ash. And then she incorporated the blend also in the biscuit. So there was a team of 3 judges, very accomplished chefs, me being one of them. And we chose this as the winner because we liked the idea that the chef took the time to test the dried vegetable blend to know how it would perform with the chicken, and the fact that she used it twice. So then, at the Philly Chef Conference this year, we showcased her winning prize. So she was able to cook this in front of the top chefs of Philadelphia and serve it to them to eat, which we thought was really a cool thing to do. And then another one of the winners we actually brought to New York for Baldur's biannual Bite event, where we had 1,700 chefs come through our event, and we showcased a quinoa ball, which used the dried vegetable blend, which was really a big hit. Sold out in like 2 hours, and again gave the chefs an opportunity to get in front of some industry leaders. So that was exciting. What you see here is really kind of cool. In New York City, we have a new restaurant in Grand Central Station called Great Northern, opened by Klaus Meyer. The #1 restaurant in the world for a while was Noma in Denmark. The owner of that restaurant, he's opened a new restaurant. Klaus came to Baldur. He heard about some of the work we were doing on the sustainability side and wanted to see it firsthand. So he came for a tour, and I was with him for a few minutes just showing him the dried vegetable blend. He saw it, and in his very thick Danish accent said, "I want 20 pounds." So I gave him 20 pounds, but I told him we're still in testing, so don't. The day before the restaurant opened, which was April 25th, I decided to go see Chef Joseph, who's the head chef for Great Northern. And over his shoulder, I see this chef with this lump coming out of an oven. So I said to Chef Joseph, "What is that? It looks like the dried vegetable blend." He's like, "Oh, it is. Klaus Meyer took your dried vegetable blend and made a traditional Danish dish, which is to take vegetable ash, roll it on top of a beet, and roast it." I was like, "Please tell me this is not on the menu." He's like, "No, it's on the menu. In fact, I need another 100 pounds of blend." So anyway, now we're off and running. But I thought that was a really... So if you do go to eat there, it is on the menu. And right now, they're actually making their own dried vegetable blend. And he said to me, "Is it a problem if we steal your idea?" And I said, "Absolutely not. Because the way I see it, let's collaborate together, share great ideas, and together better utilize all of our resources, and that's what's going to solve this problem, not sort of, protecting what we think we own as a solution." So thank you.
Thanks. How do I get to the... I'll do that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So I thought, not knowing all of these great ideas at all, except I had heard of yours, but I had not heard of the misfit before coming here, or all the other things that I've learned in these last 2 days. It's pretty amazing what's going on. But I thought I'd do a fast run through what Philabundance is, for those of you who don't know, but semi-traditional food bank. This woman, Pam Lawler, started Philabundance back in 1983 with her Subaru, going around collecting food from restaurants and catering companies. That's how I met her as a chef in Philadelphia, donating to her late at night so we could get rid of product. If we could take the product back and reuse it, that was the first thing we did. But if we couldn't use it, we gave it to Pam, and she distributed it. This is our area this is the Feeding America locations that we service in 9 counties. It's about 750,000 people who are in need. We serve about 90,000 people through about 350 agencies. Very traditional method of getting food in, getting food out. And again, we get from farms, from manufacturers, from grocery stores, and then we put it through, whether it's direct service or it's through these agencies. I'm going to go through these really fast until I get to the meat of the presentation. We have some farmers markets. Many of the food banks have these free farmers markets. We run 9 of those every week. We have something called Kids Bites, which is a farmers market at a school at the end of the school day. And we also do the senior box program in the community, the free senior box program. We also have, 3 years ago, we opened up a grocery store. Now that's different. This was the first nonprofit grocery store in the city of Chester, Pennsylvania. One of the reasons for doing this, some of you may know about this, is that we were trying to change the paradigm about getting in line for food. That this was a place that was going to be nonprofit, it was going to be a community center. Chester has 33,000 people, no grocery store, and this is open 7 days a week, just like any other grocery store you might have. The mistake we made with this after Doug Roush opened up a daily table last year is that we do not have prepared foods in here. So we do not have a kitchen. That is a real problem here. This store also provides what we call carry cash. You become a member of it just by giving your name and zip code and phone number. And when you purchase through Fair and Square, if you purchase produce, you get 10% of your produce purchase goes to a carry cash bank for you. If you buy other products, it's either 3% or 7%. And it's a way of incentivizing, trying to get people to buy fresh produce. You can use that carry cash at any time during the year, during the month, or any time. But we find that our sales start at about $70,000 the first week, $69,000 the second week, and then drop off to $50,000 the third week, and then down to $40,000 the fourth week. And that's basically the SNAP benefits. And people are using this carry cash at the end of the month. So one hope is that we will put in a prepared foods department here after being here and after seeing the daily table last year after it opened up. Clearly we need to put a prepared foods department in here so we can reuse food. We also started, so when I started seeing this trend, and I have a retail background, I had never seen that kind of trend every month in the retail world. It was usually, you have some ups and downs with holidays, but constantly seeing that after about 4 months of being at Philabundance. I've only been there about a year. And so I said, well, it's a nonprofit. Let's make it an agency of Philabundance and start giving away product. So since Thanksgiving, we had 9,400 pounds of bananas sitting in our warehouse before Thanksgiving last year, and that was on a Tuesday night. Those bananas were not going to get out until the following Tuesday because there was going to be no distribution from our warehouse until the following Monday or Tuesday. So we moved it down here and just started giving away bananas. And we got rid of 9,400 pounds of bananas in 3 days since it was open throughout the holiday season. So since then, we've given away about 500,000 pounds of bananas. So anybody can come in. You don't have to buy anything. You just have to show your little carry cash thing or join that program. And you can take, whether it's a couple of bunches or melons or whatever we have in excess that comes in, we send down to Fair and Square. This is a community which has no other grocery store and has an unemployment rate of about, I think it's 25%. The other program that we started about 15 years ago is the community kitchen. Is there anybody here from a food bank? Do you have a community kitchen?
We're not big, we're pantry.
Pantry. Anybody from a food bank? So a number of food banks in the country have community kitchens within their facility. This one is actually located in a shelter in North Philadelphia. We provide both job training here for about 14 to 25 people at a time. We graduate about 100 people per year. About half of the people who come there are still in prison. And they get the key to the van from Fort Dix or from this other prison, and they come over and they take the program. And then by the end of the program, the goal is to have them in a job at a living wage with benefits. And now, I would say that this program with people who are still incarcerated has been very successful. That started about a year ago. So this program's been there for 15 years. Hugo, who's over there on the left side, used to work at a community kitchen in Seattle. I forget the name of the one there. It's like a DC Central Kitchen. Does anybody know the Seattle one? What? Catalyst Kitchen, but
I don't know the name of it.
yeah, I just forgot the name. So we're a member of the Catalyst Kitchens, and what we've seen here is not only can we produce graduates who can get jobs, but we can also produce food for other shelters and other places that need food. So we provide food for 4 other shelters in the region. And many of the people who are producing the food for us in the kitchen came out of that program. In this program, we also use some product that is donated. What we have never done, though, with this program is try to produce another product that we would sell or something for another caterer. But now that we've been working with Drexel and with Tom, we're starting to rethink this program as a way of using it to produce jobs and also to reuse some of the food with the people who are coming through the program. I just wanted to give you an idea of where our food comes from so you see the size of it. The food rescue, this is the food coming mainly from the back of grocery stores in our region. It's 10 million pounds a year. And we think there's another 5 or 6 million. That's not including all the food that perhaps you're getting, that we have no idea what you're getting.
We're going to solve that for you.
Yeah, we're going to solve that. One of the issues is that this is our data, but there's all this other work going on that we're going to try and collect the data from our region so that we really know what is being collected and where is it being collected. We don't care who the donor is, we just care where it's being collected from and where it's going. The other one that I wanted to point out to you is the port of Philadelphia. Most people don't realize how important a port like Philadelphia is for Chilean grapes, watermelons from Guatemala, pineapples, mangoes, all coming in. Is that where you get?
No, but
No.
a lot comes in that way. Yeah,
That's
no,
right.
no, of course.
And then the question is the waste from that. What comes out from there? So as Jonathan said, bananas come in and we can take them. If they don't have a market for the bananas, we might get a shipment of 3 or a request to take from them 3 or 4 containers of bananas. That's a lot of bananas. And then the question is, what are we going to do with it? But usually we can ship them either with in-house or take them and send them out to other food banks. But I wanted you to see that the gleaning program on the bottom is about 400,000 pounds last year, and we're hoping to get that to about 1 million pounds, and also working with other gleaners in the area. This just gives you a breakdown and shows you where that is. Most people think that in food banking, it's the food drive that brings in a lot of food. Well, a lot of people think that. And it's very little. So these are some of our goals for the next 5 years. And as you can see at the bottom, we after working with Drexel and with Tom, we've added food waste as a place where we need to figure out how to reuse product that can't be used by the pantries the way it is. And so collaborating with a zero waste program, expanding our Grocers Against Hunger, expanding our relationship with farmers, more visits to the port so that they remember that we're here. And then this next thing is food production and value-added product. We were not thinking that way. We were not thinking about using our kitchen to do value-added product. And the other thing that we realized is that not only can we do it, but we can also work with small operators who can also do a co-packing for us. So this product that we have here is just in a test form right now. It's called Rescued Relish. The product came off of our shelves. It was sent to Bryan Street, which is a small operator in Philadelphia. And as far as he's concerned, he would love to make this product for us and then put our label on it. And then we can both sell it or give it away or whatever, but we'll probably sell it. And being from a retail background, this would probably sell for about $6 a jar in your local Whole Foods or food co-op. And so I'll pass it around. But this is something we were not thinking about a year ago. So the goal is our production kitchen, which is now about 3,000 square feet, we're going to increase that to about 12,000, increase our job training program. That's our goal right now. And what we were doing before this was looking at contracts for feeding additional or other shelters. Now we're starting to look at the last part, which is start looking at food production, both that we can sell and also create jobs for. And in Philadelphia, there's something called the Enterprise Center. in West Philadelphia, which is an incubator kitchen. And one of the things we want to do is work with them to see if we start making a product, can we then take one of our trainees and put them into business, perhaps working at the Enterprise Center in Incubator Kitchen, and have them start their own product line. So that would be the goal, working with Drexel on recipes and working with our chefs and also with our distribution chain. So again, some of the items that we have to be flexible with are things like soup. What I learned here this week is just purees, just making purees, and then finding product lines for that. This type of relish or using a co-packer. So it's a very exciting time for us to start thinking about this. And it's not our primary business. This won't be our primary business, but it can be a revenue stream at some level. And our hope is that it will both increase rescued food, do some job creation, tell a story on the shelf. One thing we'd like to be able to do is tell the story on the shelf, on the label, about where this product is coming from. And we think by educating the public through that product, that's another way for people to start thinking about using secondary product or rescue product. Educate the public, feed people in need, and engage volunteers in this production. As the DC, anybody from the DC Central Kitchen here? Oh, you're here.
Yes.
So when I went down to the DC Central Kitchen, I was just blown away by the number of volunteers and kids working along with everyone else. So it was quite amazing. We can't do that because our kitchen is in a shelter right now, so we can't bring volunteers in there. So great program. So that's the label, and we hope to have a can of that or a jar of that for you next year for all of you. So thank you.
So next we'll do granola bars for the next,
All right.
next product. And one of the cool things we're finding is, I mentioned this to Thomas, but I need to update him. We're seeing opportunities for these products that, again, are not just kind of forcing food on people, but where they can really have impact. So one example is they just published in the city of Philadelphia, they published new procurement guidelines for city agencies, which includes like juvenile justice and senior centers and so on, about reduced sodium products. So basically all soup is out. Canned soup, broth, things like that. That veggie blend makes a decent soup, right? So then there are opportunities there that, I think, policy and legislation, all of that is important, but it's slow. The market moves much more quickly. So if we can find market opportunities for a lot of these products, I think we'll see faster acceptance and change. So I have some canned questions, but my preference is to use your real questions. And then we'll do questions for about 10 minutes, and then we have some questions for you that Thomas will run by you at the end. So, yes, thanks.
I just have a question about these products, which I think is such a brilliant concept. Are you anticipating that the prices will be lower than the average pickled relish thing that's served at?
Yeah, so I don't think we're going to be able to afford, if we use a co-packer, we will not be able to sell this in our store in Chester. It will not have a price point that will move. And I don't think that it will move anyhow, but I think that, the cost of making this from the co-packer is about $3 right now. It's a small batch, right? So, and so if we could sell it for $4.50, or we could sell it for $4, or just sell it to cover the cost, and they can mark it up in the retail market, that's fine. If we can take it to farmers markets, it's a way of just getting our name out, but also having people think about the whole thing of using product. When I was a chef, many years ago, we would always try and use every single thing we could use first, and then throw it out. But we didn't think about in the restaurant donating it someplace, because there was no real system until Philadelphia started coming around. But
I would like to see people paying more for this, just as a value
I heard that from you,
statement.
and I was wondering what your thought behind that was.
Well,
have to test it
I
out.
think what you pay for, you value, and I think it really sends a message that this food is recovered food, it's in the system, it's something we value that we were able to save. Sends a very different message in terms of a consumerist mindset than, oh, well, it's half the price of something that came from vegetables that were expressly bought to chop up. So therefore I should pay less. It doesn't quite, I don't think it sends a message that we want to send, you know, and it's also, it is small batch, handmade, keeping, you know, and as this spins off into micro enterprises, we want people to make decent wages doing this stuff and then be able to, instead of living on donated food, being able to go to Fair and Square, spend their wages buying food and other things, right? So I think we can kind of break through some of the poverty system that way. Maybe it's too optimistic.
I think that speaks to the imperfect produce that my aunt runs a farm stand, and they sell it, but they don't market any differently because it's still the same cost to bring it off the field.
Right.
And it's still
just
good
as
food,
delicious,
and we need to
right.
remember that messaging
Right.
for
Right.
all of this rescue.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great.
Have you come across any challenges being a nonprofit selling this product? And a product that's been donated maybe by a farm with the intention that it's going to hunger relief, and then you're turning around and selling it?
So some of this product was not from a farm. Some of it was also purchased at Fair and Square, took it off the shelves there, and then turned it into that. But I think that it's going to be a tricky thing. But the value-added part of it, we can sell it at like whatever the value-added part. Then we can sell it at that price, and whoever sells it after that, it's up to them, I think. But no, we haven't crossed that yet.
Yes.
I was going to say that pieces of that, though, are re-educating donors about the other outcomes from a product like that you're doing job training and you're, creating my process, and then you potentially giving actually more people than you would have with that smaller.
Right.
So, sorry, kind of to serve the farmer, should they then at some capacity, aside from, in some cases there are tax incentives for them to donate, but in some cases, like this is the case it's going to the farm. Some cases there are tax incentives, in some cases they're losing money to donate, then they're going to see where's the cost, why don't I get out of this? So that's my only concern.
There's nothing, I don't think the food has to be, this is mostly retail level surplus, but there's nothing precluding buying the food in this system.
Right, in other words, we could buy the food from the farmer at a reduced price, let's say, and pay them for the product, and then turn it into this in our job training program. I don't know, I think that's okay.
So my other question is then how does that affect gleaning down the road? And that sort
Well,
of.
I think that gleaning, for us, gleaning, we're going to put that out fresh. As a fresh product, we're going to get that out to people as fast as possible through whatever method. That's not necessarily going to go into this product. This we're thinking about is when he talked about the bananas before. So you get a shipment of bananas in, and some of them only have 2 or 3 days left, or we say, no, we can't take that product because we can't ship it to an agency because then it'll throw it out. We're talking about product that before it gets composted or before it goes to the beautiful pigs, that perhaps it could be used for something else, such as what they did with the vegetable mix. Something else before, so it's not able to be shipped out because of the time left on the product. That's what we're trying to figure out.
Yes.
Slightly different. A lot of conversations been on produce. I work for the Dairy Council, and one of the challenges is when milk is close to date, supermarkets don't want to give it to food banks. Yet, we've heard today that milk can develop a slightly off taste but still be safe. So I was wondering if anyone's ever discussed what to do with all that retail milk.
Well, we talk about cheese all the time. We talk about making some type of cheese product from the milk that's is either gone out or is about to go out. And I've never tested it out yet, but we've talked about it, and it'd be wonderful to see whether can you freeze milk and then make cheese out of it.
Because there's a lot of milk that would be close to date and just wasted.
Right.
Yeah, we can.
I don't know, cooking that would prolong its life.
We can talk. We've done, so that granola bar product I mentioned, we use milk because the shelters from the city are allocated 8 ounces of milk per resident per meal, which I don't know, I drank about a tablespoon today in my coffee, but most people don't drink 24 ounces a day. So they're just like swimming in milk that's in the freezer, and they wait for this is another example. They wait for trash day to take the milk from the freezer and put it in the dumpster. So I agree entirely, we need solutions. That uses some of it. Cheese is a great idea. Yogurt, the health department hates because it has to be done in the danger zone of room temperature, even though people have been making yogurt for millennia. So we need some legislative changes so that soup kitchens don't get shut down for making yogurt. So some of it sort of boggles the mind, but I think, between your politically and our hands-on, maybe we can figure something out. Let's talk after. Yes?
I'm curious if there's challenges in, so with Velvo it's different because you're utilizing a byproduct of the manufacturing process, but when you're relying on sort of a surplus product and then have a set ingredient list, say your product makes its market and has a demand for it. Is there ever a product that making sure you have that?
No, we'll never know. That's a problem. And I think one of the slides I said flexibility.
Yeah.
So we're just starting out on this road and looking at what kind of kitchen we're going to need. But the thing is, can we freeze soups, and then who we sell it to, whether it's a store or a coffee shop where they can then warm up the soup, they'll have to be flexible with us and understand that you may not get the exact same soup each time. And sometimes it might have some other product in it that you weren't expecting. So if you can be flexible, that's a problem with what we're thinking about doing. When it comes to bananas, we pretty much have a good supply of bananas coming towards the port. And then the other thing is, can we get enough of it and then put it up for a long period of time, whether it's frozen or in jars by a co-packer, and then have a shipment, and then when we're out, and then when we get another shipment, we're back in business again.
I want to
It's not an exact science.
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you look at the product that we passed around, we developed, it's a relish, or it's based on a chow chow. And the standard of identity for a chow chow is a mixed vegetable pickle. So that was very deliberate. Like we could have, of course, done this with cucumbers or cauliflower, right? But the whole idea is, if we have green tomatoes this week and we have cauliflower next week, we could still produce. And every possible ingredient is on the label. And so if one of them is, you can't add things that aren't on the label, but if something's not in it, it's a little okay, it's a little better. We need to work with better printing, sort of on-demand printing is a hurdle, so that we could print a label with the ingredients that are actually in it in ratio every day. But that's why we're looking at, I think Glenn nailed it, either really flexible products or going back to those common, it seems really diverse and overwhelming, but when you actually look at the food that's, like if you look at produce, which we did focus on because it's so problematic and so healthy, what we found, and we published some research on this, about 10% of what we're recovering from actual supermarkets, counting food, counting samples and extrapolating, is really oddball stuff that really you can't commercialize something like prickly pear fruit. Every supermarket in the world has 4 of them. They seem to sit there for a month and then they throw them out. And, but we're not seeing like cases and cases of tomatillos and, cherry peppers. It's apples, oranges, tomatoes, peaches in season, bananas, watermelon in season, corn, leafy greens, onions, potatoes, sweet potatoes. It's the same kinds of products that we're seeing over and over, so we can, unfortunately, there's so much waste in the system that we can rely on certain products, which is a whole other thing.
So just on that, so what we are working on, so I'm at Commonwealth Kitchen here in Boston, where we are doing co-packing, and we're also an incubator, so you can some share notes, is we actually are developing a dozen recipes ahead of time that are just like this. It's in a jar.
Right.
So you, farmer A, has tomatoes, you can bring us the tomatoes and we'll process them. You, farmer B, has cauliflower, we'll process the cauliflower, here's what we can do with it. So we're trying to get ahead of this, but it's the same kind of a concept that says, we have to think about on-demand processing, how's it gonna work to get back to the farmer, and the notion is that we're buying it from the farmer, we're not trying to get it.
One other thought on that point that's really, really helpful is when we think about a carrot, let's purpose the whole carrot. I don't like the word byproduct. I don't like to hear about trim or scraps or the W word. That's why we came up with Sparks at Baldor. So all the food processing we do when we cut our fresh vegetables and fruits, whatever is didn't have a home is referred to as a spark. But we actually purposefully use all that product now. So if we purposefully use the whole carrot, for example, with our Misfit partners who take our carrot peel, then that carrot peel portion is actually the product, and I like to think of the carrot stick as the byproduct.
So, one last question, and then we'll have some questions for you. Yes?
I was wondering what's the process of developing menu based upon fruits and vegetables, and how do you engage students taking into like cooking?
Thank you. It's like a plant.
Yeah, that's a great question.
So we have this food lab that I mentioned. It's basically my research lab. We have students who are interested in this stuff. We meet in person once a week, and then we sort of work on things individually throughout the week. So we meet every Thursday in the summer. And we just start with the food. So we sample from people who bring us things to play with. We had a lot of conversations here about working with people. We're working with okara, which is a byproduct from tofu production, which is sold in Japan, but no one eats it because why? It doesn't taste good.
Not that tofu does, but
yeah, I like tofu. We're dealing with. We have a blended burger with mushroom stems. We have all sorts of products, and that's really, I think, one of the things that makes this work is that it's not just me in my kitchen trying to figure stuff out. It's a bunch of students, and the other side of the story that is not going to be of interest to all of you, but I really feel that we need to reform this. This can really help us reform culinary education. Most culinary schools, students get a recipe that's been made 10 million times, and they make it, and if it looks like the instructor and tastes like the instructor wants it to, they get an A, and if not, they redo it. And that's learning, but it's learning in the same way I can fix a computer. If you give me a troubleshooting guide, I have no idea what I just did, right? And so I think we need to get away from recipe-driven culinary education and move towards starting with the food and figuring out the problems. And so my goals are sort of multifaceted. Yes, we want to fix food waste and save the world. I also want to teach better cooks than I would be able to teach in another environment. So, and we also have product design. The great thing about being at a university, we have environmental science students, product design students, assorted foodies who just want to hang out in the kitchen. So it's really fun. I'm going to pass it over to you.
I have to answer that question because that's what I think all my work is all about. I do this at home and I do this at work. When I first met John, he came. I knew he was this very accomplished chef, but I wanted to provide a lunch for him. But I wanted to cook everything out of what would have been sent to landfill. Okay, so I took sweet potato peelings and I made a sweet potato gratin. I made a primavera pasta, etc. But what that actually sparked at Baldor, because I prepared the same meal for the senior management team, was an awareness that. No, of course I didn't tell him this was all Sparks. We didn't have the word Sparks then. This is like how we got it all started. And I prepared a meal. The CEO of the company ate 2 bowls of the sweet potato gratin. And this was like last August. Asked me to make it for our Thanksgiving dinner, which for 1,300 employees, which I did. And then I informed everybody that this product was actually, to borrow your term, a byproduct from our sweet potato cleaning process. So what I'd like you to do, actually, and everybody in this room, is to open your refrigerator the next time you go to cook, buy nothing, and make a meal. You can do it. You can do it. My wife and I hosted a really fancy dinner party at our house last Saturday night. I made a shaved gravlaxed fennel, topped with a seared scallop, which that was not, I bought that. And then in the morning, I pickled strawberries because we had some tired-looking organic strawberries. Please buy organic strawberries. Organic strawberries in our fridge. I pickled them, which came out really great, and that's what I topped in the salad. And we waved most of that, except for the scallop, was in the refrigerator already, and so I'd encourage you to do like a little chopped competition with your friends, come up with a basket of what would be food that you might discard, and make a meal. So you ready? Ready for our challenge today?
Go ahead.
So we have a challenge for all of you, so get your pencils or the devices you've been texting your friends while we're speaking out. And we're going to come up with 10 opportunities that you can bring back to your place of work or home to reduce the loss that you might otherwise have. But we'd like this to come from you. So what are some of the things that you could do? I could give you some examples if it helps spark the conversation. One of the things we did at Baldor is we now charge for paper coffee cups. We were providing them for free. Everyone's encouraged, 1,300 employees. I would say about 90% have brought in a mug from home that they weren't using anyway. And now we save between 1,300 and 2,500 paper cups from going to landfill every day. As an example. It could be food related, but it doesn't have to. We prefer it to be food related. So any other ideas? And you can't say carrot peels to Misfit because we already do that. Anybody? Yes?
I learned this from my Mennonite tenants. Every time you make something, a vegetable dish, you just take all the gleanings, the leavings, put them in a container in the freezer, makes your bad later.
You can call them sparks. You can borrow it. So you've taken all of the sparks when you cook, whatever you cook, you put them in the freezer and then collectively use them for something, either or stock or soup. Love it. That's great. By the way, just to point out, there isn't a vegetable you can't do that with. So your onion tops, your tomato tops, all of it, put it in the freezer bag, take it out, add 2 quarts of water, bring it to a boil, strain it, you have the best broth you've ever had. Excellent. Or make risotto. That's number 1. So we're all going to do that. That's great.
That's follow up.
Yeah?
You strained it, so don't you still have remains and you want to?
Yes. You could pick through those remains and eat them, but what the boiling process actually does is extracts a lot of the nutrients from the food. The other thing that it does is it allows you, if you're able to compost, that's about 60% of the composting time already eliminated from the cooking process. So now you're only going to need to compost that for about 3 months. And so mix that right into the dirt in your backyard, and I really appreciate that because you definitely don't want to send that to landfill. Great job. You know, you could, but if it's got, you know, you could put it through a sieve or something, right? It's a thickening agent, sure. Yeah, I mean, that's a great idea. I haven't done that, but I'm going to try that. Excellent. Thank you, Kai. Yes?
I had all intentions of the great breakfast smoothie with kale, and, you buy all these great things, and then you get a breakfast meeting and this, that, and the other. So I finally started making little baggies of like I put the kale, the pineapple, or whatever, and now I have pre-smoothie baggies so that you're not throwing everything away every time.
Excellent. Okay, so you're 100% sourcing all the product you buy, and then you have your bags. Love it. It's a good one. Thank you.
When I have leftover milk or milk is getting to expire quickly, I make my own farmer's cheese.
And can you tell us how you do that quickly?
I just add a teaspoon or a tablespoon of kefir or yogurt, which has living temperatures, and just let it stand in the room temperature for 2 days, and then I very slowly heat it up, and it separates the protein from the whey, and then I strain it.
Excellent. And if you have a pig, you could feed the pig the whey. Excellent.
You can actually use a coffee spinner to get the protein separated from water.
You do a what?
Use coffee spinner.
Oh, for that process. Yes, got it. I thought you did that with just water. I was like, the protein's in water. I was like, that's good. That's like a 4.
My mother-in-law's from Germany. She's a complete attorney. Everything into soups at the end
Yeah.
of the week. We spend a lot of time with them. So in the soup, you can just see the entire week showing up in there. Pieces of meatloaf or some sausage from this. The mashed potatoes becomes the thickening agent for a cream-style soup.
Excellent.
Unbelievable. It's always good.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think we need her to do a blog.
I don't know shred soup.
She should.
I can't take credit for this, it's my boss's idea, but for unused herbs that are going bad, to chop them up and put them in an ice cube tray.
Brilliant. Everybody catch that? That is, go ahead, one more time, a little louder.
Yeah, so with unused herbs, to chop them up and put them in an ice cube tray and then put olive oil in and freeze it, and then you can add it to like any pasta or something.
Brilliant. It's so brilliant.
Yeah, so I learned from a chef that I know. She puts the apple tops and peels and cores into her tea when she makes tea. So it sweetens the tea.
It's also really good
It's
for
brilliant.
pectin, if you do home jelly making, if you just cook it all down and then scoop it in.
Do we have to stop?
We have to stop.
Can we do one more? Because this gentleman right here.
Yeah, because it's going to be good.
Yeah, when we've got greens that are beginning to go and they're not going to look good in the salad, what we'll do is make, I call it salad eggs instead of egg salad, but you actually scramble eggs, throw the greens in, and then with a kind of omelet with all the greens that didn't look good.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
That's
cooking
brilliant.
greens down to nothing, like for a fried rice, for anything like that, for frittata, is a good way to get a bunch of them.
John, can I just say one more
Yeah,
thing?
go ahead.
So for the next conference, you're going to see, I'm going to at least request this, and I haven't made the request yet, but I think that the food served that Katrina from Sustainable Foods was able to accumulate for this event was really terrific. But I think we need to take it one step further. What I'd like to do the next conference, and we all know there will be one, is, with Jen's help, we will source green vegetables. We will not know what they are, and it could be milk products, it could be, I'm going to ask 30 people to come to the conference a day before, and we're going to prepare the meals based on whatever comes, and we will not know what it is. So you're going to see, hopefully in the next invite, the opportunity to participate in that, and I'm going to be the crazy person behind it.